Ravaged by decades of war, Sudan still burns.
We are devastated here without help.
Into the cauldron, a Muslim aid organization is bringing hope where there was despair.
I want the international community, everybody, to realize the agony of those people and the suffering.
This is the story of Dr. Hany El Banna's determination to help some of the poorest and desperate people on earth. A mission undertaken against a backdrop of war and untruths.
This is not true.
So it's all a big lie?
A big lie, yes, definitely.
I fly with the UK-based charity Islamic Relief across Sudan with its chief, the man we'll call the Flying Doctor. We're beginning our journey here at Al Ubaid, some 600 kilometers south of the Sudanese capital, Khartoum. And we're heading south to South Sudan and the town of Wau. There I'll be investigating just what has happened to the peace deal signed between Sudanese rebels and the Sudanese government just over 2 years ago. I'll also be looking at the desperate plight of the refugees there. Ahead, 6,000 kilometers of travel by air and land. Sudan is Africa's biggest country, and for trips like this, in practical terms, the best way to get around is by plane. It was my first chance to meet Islamic Relief's boss, Dr. Hany El Banna, recently voted one of the UK's most powerful and influential Muslims. His charity prides itself in raising funds from grassroots Muslim communities in the UK. Sudan is close to Dr. Hany's heart. More than 30 years ago, his organisation began working in Sudan in response to devastating floods and famine. Now, Doctor, you're something of a legend, and your work began in the early 80s. How did it all begin?
In 1983, it was my first visit to Sudan to attend an Islamic medical conference there. And this was the time of the year of the famine in Africa, in the Horn of Africa, the era of Bob Geldof, Band Aid and Live Aid. And after finishing the conference, we have been taken to see the refugees camp in Khartoum and other areas, and have been introduced to some organization to take some photograph with me. So this is how it started. So I had a visit to Egypt at the time on the way back from Khartoum. Stopped there, I spoke to my family, and they managed to raise 1,500 pound, Egyptian pound, for the people in Sudan and the Horn of Africa. Then when I came back to Birmingham, I sat down with some of my friends in the medical school where we were studying, and we managed to raise some money from mosques and from community centers and open a bank account.
Now, actually, the background to this is that you walked the streets of Birmingham, did you not?
That's right, I do.
What was it like in the early days? I mean, were the Muslim people generous or not?
They were generous but suspicious, because there was nobody raising money for organization or for famine or for food, mostly raising money for mosques. And even at that time, in the 80s, there was still some problem inside the mosques, which group should be in charge of the mosque. That's why people were a little bit skeptical. We land at the town of Wau. First stop on Dr. Hany's fact-finding mission. Charitable work in South Sudan is something of a blank canvas because after decades of war, which saw thousands killed and millions displaced, the people have nothing. Now in peacetime, organizations like Islamic Relief are rebuilding the very basics of life. And beyond the smiling faces and suits lie huge challenges. What special challenges are there here for NGOs like you? Special challenges here is
well, logistics is one, isn't it?
Definitely.
You just told me a short time ago we're going through it on a 4-hour drive in a truck with our heads bouncing against the...
Definitely, we have fun on this journey. You see, the challenges is the infrastructure, which is the road, particularly in the south, even in the west. You know, we have to charter this plane because you cannot make this journey because there's no roads.
It's expensive then, isn't it?
It's expensive, but it's paying back. You see, because you have got 15 people on the plane coming from 4 or 5 countries worldwide. They want to go back to raise as much money as they can in a very short period of time. So if it costs you X amount of money, you know that this X will be multiplied by the factor of 10 or 20 or 50 because of the time factor and the image they are going to get and the relationship with the government and the local community as well. So infrastructure is extremely important. You will see views or scenes tonight and tomorrow which will remind you of the movies of Tarzan. You know Tarzan movies? I've seen this about 4 years ago. People are still living in a very, very, very primitive situation. And for a government start at the beginning of the 21st century to look back 100 years ago in the 19th century style, this is what you can see in the parts of the South of Sudan, or in the east of Sudan, on the west of Sudan as well.
So we're going to be swinging through the trees, are we, Doctor?
You have got trees which are 300-400 years old, and which actually the village, when you go to the village, you find this is the central,
How the children of Wow managed to smile, I just don't know. These kids are so poor they have to make their own toys. South Sudan is surely one of the hardest places to live. Ahead, 5 hours of bone-crunching drive across scrubland as we head to one of Islamic Relief's centres at the town of Warrap. This dirt track's only open 6 months of the year during the dry season. At other times, Warrap is effectively cut off by road. Here we see poverty beyond words. This mainly Christian community have returned to their homes having fled the war to nothing. Even scrawny vultures seem to have a tough time. Children play pretend war games because war is all they've seen. These people need everything: housing, food, medical care, roads. All the things the rest of the world takes for granted. Islamic Relief does what it can. This medical centre, the only one in the region, it serves a community of more than 6,000 people. Staff here treat waterborne diseases, malaria, respiratory infections and diarrhea. This man is suffering from a scorpion bite.
Where did it on his foot?
Here.
Yeah.
If the centre wasn't here, medical conditions in this vast region would simply go untreated.
I'm very happy and very sad. Very happy that we managed to come as far as Warrap here, but very sad for the condition of the people living here. And when we made the journey yesterday, it took us about 5 hours in a 4-wheel drive car. If those people wanted to go for a treatment, they walk maybe a day or 2 or 3 days to go to Wow. I'm very happy that we all are starting to do some work here. At least we can give the minimum requirement for those people. But I want the international community, everybody, to realize the agony of those people and the suffering. They don't have clean water, they don't have proper housing, they don't have proper food, they don't have any facilities at all, and nobody talk about them.
The bitter irony about poverty here is that beneath the ground, billions of barrels of oil, so far untapped on any large scale. Peace is the key to opening up the oil wealth, and as far as we could see in towns like Warrap, the accord signed in January 2005 between the Sudanese government and the Sudanese Liberation Army is holding. Local Commissioner Akul Makadit told me war in the south is over.
Absolutely, I'm sure 100% that the Southern Sudanese are committed to peace. We are committed to this peace. Nobody loves war. We all love peace. But peace that bear nice fruits. We are now thinking of how to raise up this nation. You have seen now, we are the people actually to be happy with peace because we are left behind, and we need to develop it. We need schools, we need so many things, we need boreholes, we need all those things that human beings need them. We need to be like others. We need to catch up with Africa. We need to catch up with Europe. So we need peace.
Early next day, a dawn flight as our travels with the flying doctor take us to the Blue Nile region and to war-torn West Darfur.